Hey friends, just popping in before we start this video to tell you about my newest project, Delusion Media. I love making content on YouTube, and I think there is so much opportunity to grow your business and your personal brand here on YouTube, yes, even in 2023. So I invite you to join me over on the Delusion Media YouTube channel or on delusionmedia.co to get the info you need to create a thriving YouTube channel today. Now let's get to the video. 𝗪𝗦𝗣𝗢𝗧, a disbarred attorney from South Carolina, has been sentenced to life in prison for the murder of his wife and child. While this was a particularly heinous crime that tarnishes the profession, as the lead prosecutor said at sentencing last Friday, it's certainly not the first time a lawyer got into legal trouble for his, or her, but usually his, illicit activities. And we know this, right? Attorneys have a bad rep for a reason. It didn't just like manifest from thin air, okay? There's a long history of attorneys going rogue, wheeling, dealing, and swindling. Which got me wondering why. What is it about practicing law that makes people go bad, or that attracts bad people to begin with? Let's talk about it. Roll the dang intro. First, let me thank my partner on today's video, ShipStation. Did you know that the #1 reason why people abandon their online shopping carts is because of shipping costs? I didn't know that. Have you ever left a cart full of items in an online store because you saw the shipping price and were like, nah? I certainly have. But let's face it, free and fast shipping is the norm and is expected from businesses at this point, but it can be hard for smaller e-commerce businesses to compete. You can keep yourself and your e-commerce business competitive with ShipStation. I don't know if you know this, but I just launched my own small business last month, and let me tell you, it's stressful and overwhelming. And if you own an e-commerce business, you have shipping to deal with on top of all that. With ShipStation, the setup is super quick and you get a free trial. So now is the time to try ShipStation out if you've been on the fence. With ShipStation, you can handle the shipping of your online orders all conveniently in one place, which allows you to operate efficiently and maximize your growth. ShipStation integrates with every platform. I'm talking Amazon, eBay, Etsy, Shopify, and more, so you can manage all your shipping from one simple dashboard. Also with ShipStation, you can compare carriers, rates, and shipping times to make sure that you're getting the best shipping possible for your customers with every order. And you get the best shipping discounts in the industry, so you never have to worry about overpaying for shipping. Like, I'm talking up to 84% off USPS and UPS rates. Join over 130,000 companies who have grown their e-commerce business with ShipStation. Go to shipstation.com/Leeja today and sign up for a free 60-day trial. That's 2 months free. Visit shipstation.com/Leeja. Thank you, ShipStation, for partnering with me on today's video. Okay, maybe you haven't kept up to date with this 𝗪𝗦𝗣𝗢𝗥 trial, so let's back it up, because I think the context of his life, while unique, is also a helpful example for how lawyers could go bad. Lawyers gone wild, you know, but less fun spring break flashing and more money laundering. Okay, focus. All right, 𝗪𝗦𝗣𝗪𝗧. He was born in South Carolina to a prestigious family of lawyers, and we're talking lawyers, okay? In the 14th Circuit in South Carolina, his father, grandfather, great-grandfather, they'd all been prosecutors, and they ran the largest law firm in Hampton County, South Carolina for nearly a century. And this is like small town South Carolina, okay? So everyone knows everyone, but especially everyone knows the 𝗪𝗧s. They're connected to all the lawyers, all the prosecutors, all the judges, all the law enforcement, and pretty much all the potential jurors in the town and in the county. And the 𝗪𝗧 family law firm especially made a name for itself in the early 2000s for their personal injury cases, because what else?
I believe that until proven guilty, every man, woman, and child in this country is innocent. And that's why I fight for you, 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗧. Better call Saul.
I'll talk a little bit about why personal injury lawyers specifically get such a bad rap later, and I would know, because I worked for one. Okay. By 26, 𝗪𝗪𝗣𝗪𝗧 was an attorney working at Daddy's law firm. He got married to Maggie and had 2 boys, Buster and Paul, and worked at the firm through the early 2000s when they worked some very large personal injury cases. In the 2010s, however, things started to unravel. I can't go into every crime that the 𝗪𝗧s, specifically 𝗪𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧, are accused of committing because frankly there are literally 100 of them. Many of them stemming from misconduct with client funds. See, lawyers are held to extremely high standards when it comes to the handling of client funds. in theory, at least. They're required to deposit those funds in a separate trust account that they cannot touch unless they've earned the money through conducting legal work. So like when you pay a retainer to your lawyer, they have to put that in a separate account. And if they don't earn that money, they have to give it back to you. Similarly, if you win a settlement at court, the funds are paid out in many different ways, but often, especially when it's a huge sum, it gets paid through your lawyer's trust account, with the understanding that your lawyer has your best interests in mind and then will disperse all of that money responsibly. Theoretically. What can happen sometimes, though, is that your attorney doesn't disperse of the money responsibly. Instead, they'll just hold on to it, or maybe spend it for fun, which is what Alex 𝗪𝗧 is accused of doing repeatedly. I mentioned I would talk about why personal injury lawyers specifically have such a bad rap. Some of them are great, and that's fine, but I think specifically the reason they get a bad rap is because, one, they have to find clients. How do you find clients? You gotta find injured people. What does that lead to? Ambulance chasing. So they say. So they're constantly on the lookout for clients. Also, they tend to work on a contingency fee basis, meaning that they don't get paid until they win money for their clients, and then they get a percentage of that winnings, usually like 20, 30, upwards of 40%. So they need many, many clients to make sure that enough percentage of them wins that they're making enough money. So they're constantly looking for clients. Also, their clients tend to be plaintiffs. They are representing the plaintiff who is bringing the complaint, and then that plaintiff wins money, settlement money, often a lot of settlement money, often millions of dollars of settlement money, which then the lawyer has to handle appropriately. Okay, so we're dealing with a specific practice of law where you are constantly trying to find more clients and you are constantly trying to make more money, and that money is only paid out to you if you win, and that money is often paid out to a lawyer who has a lot of power because their client is often someone who has been injured and who doesn't really have many resources because they hired this lawyer without paying them hourly, instead promising the lawyer they would get a piece of the earnings. You see how this could all create a perfect storm? Okay, that's a side note though. That's on personal injury law, okay? There's a lot of bad lawyers who aren't just personal injury lawyers, okay? They just tend to be the most public ones because they gotta find clients, so they make those shitty commercials. Moving on. And at least according to the 𝗪𝗧 Murders Netflix documentary I watched, the 𝗪𝗧 family had a history of being able to get away with things because of their connections and their last name. When Alex's boys got in trouble, they could call him or their grandfather and they would just make it go away. Like the boys will be boys mentality taken to the extreme because they knew that they didn't have to ever face any consequences for their actions. This came to a head in 2019 when Alex 𝗪𝗧's youngest son, Paul, you know, the one that he murdered, yeah, anyway, his son Paul was out on a boat in the middle of the night on a river with 5 of his friends, drunk out of his mind, and he ran the boat into a bridge, killing one of the passengers. At first, Paul denied even driving the boat, and his father and his grandfather actually showed up at the hospital where all the other kids were dropped off and started talking to people, trying to cover for their boy. Okay? Eventually, Paul was charged with the death of his friend. However, he was never arrested or held in custody. He had his arraignment, but then was allowed to continue to live his life while the case wound its way through the legal system, no doubt held up by his family of lawyers who know how to manipulate the legal system. That was until Paul died at the hands of his father 2 years later before the case had a chance to come to any resolution. Not only that, but in 2018, the 𝗪𝗧 housekeeper died under very fishy circumstances. The 𝗪𝗧s claimed that it was a fall and she hit her head and later died. Conveniently, however, the month before that slip and fall, Alex had taken out a huge insurance plan on the property where it happened. So you'd get a payout if, say, someone gets injured on your property, and the family of the housekeeper never saw a dime, even though he claimed to have filed an insurance claim after her death to get money to support her 2 sons. Like, he sued himself, basically. Filed a claim against his own insurance, saying that he was doing it out of the goodness of his heart, that he would give it to her children. Nothing came of it. A wrongful death lawsuit was later filed and settled out of court in 2020, but the family never got their settlement. Okay? So we're seeing a theme emerge here. Death for money. People's lives don't matter as much as money. Okay, then Alex starts getting investigated for the various financial crimes that he committed through his law firm. So according to the prosecutor's version of the case, which the jury accepted as true last week when they convicted Alex, Alex decided to murder his wife and child to distract from the investigations into his financial crimes. Instead, however, that kind of backfired and he will now spend the rest of his life in prison and is still being investigated for those financial crimes. Not really sure how he came up with that plan, but I guess that's what happens when you're on a fuck ton of opioids. Oh yeah, he also had a pill addiction, which is his excuse for stealing literally millions of dollars from his legal clients to pay for the drugs. But okay, hear me out. Drugs aren't that expensive, you know? Like, you don't need millions to support your opioid addiction. So I hear. So it's kind of a flimsy excuse, though I guess it would make sense that his addiction would lead to him doing illogical and dangerous things like stealing millions of dollars and thinking that murdering his wife and child would be a good distraction from his financial crimes, I guess. And so after a month-long trial that was very public, thanks to his family's reputation in the community and to the Netflix documentary that conveniently dropped during the trial, the jury deliberated for less than 3 hours and found him guilty on all 4 counts against him, including 2 counts of first-degree murder. And on Friday, the judge sentenced him to life without the possibility of parole. And reading and hearing about 𝗪𝗛𝗏𝗪𝗏's story and various financial crimes, it got me thinking about another high-profile lawyer gone bad that's been dominating the tabloids for the last couple years. Tom Girardi, husband to Erica Jane of Real Housewives fame. Unlike 𝗪𝗛𝗏𝗪𝗏, Tom Girardi doesn't appear to have murdered anyone or to have come from a prestigious legal background. I can't find anything about his parents. He founded his own firm, Girardi & Keese, which also did, you guessed it, personal injury law, though they made a name for themselves through specific types of personal injuries, namely medical malpractice and toxic torts. Specifically, Anderson et al. Versus PG&E, the case made famous by the movie Erin Brockovich. Ever heard of it? They got the company to pay $460 million to residents of Hinckley, California for contaminating their water and leading to illness, cancer, and death. And throughout his career, much like 𝗪𝗛𝗏𝗪𝗏, Tom Girardi made connections with the right people. He donated heavily to politicians. He knew the people he needed to know to get away with his shit. By 2021, Girardi had been sued more than 100 times and multiple complaints had been filed against him with the California State Bar Association, you know, the ones that handle lawyer licenses, and nothing had been done. His reputation remained intact. He had never had to attend a hearing or answer for any of the complaints. And that's on knowing the right people, okay? That is until the 2021 Los Angeles Times article reported on all of the complaints, leading to increased scrutiny and eventually to his disbarment in California. Tom Girardi is also accused of misappropriating client funds, just like 𝗪𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏. Specifically, he represented victims' families from the Boeing 737 MAX Lion Air plane crash in Indonesia, winning them millions of dollars for the victims' families for the wrongful death of their loved ones. He then misappropriated millions of dollars for his own use. So again, we're seeing a theme, okay? Money is more important than people's literal lives. And that appears to be a theme generally for humans, yes, but especially for lawyers. There's a Wikipedia article that's just a list of disbarments affecting notable lawyers in US history. Frankly, there's far too many to name, and many of them committed very creative crimes that led to a disbarment. But I scanned them and I noticed a pattern. Let's take a look, shall we? Bribery, tax evasion, racketeering, wire fraud, extortion, bribery, fraud, tax evasion, misappropriation of client funds, bribery, extortion, insider trading, racketeering, extortion, bribery, money laundering, wire fraud. In short, lying and stealing to get more money and more power by whatever means necessary. When lawyers go bad, it's for money and power. Or maybe they were bad before they became lawyers. Okay, so why are lawyers such shitbags? I have a number of theories, but here are my top 2. 1, self-selecting personality traits, and 2, power. Let's start with self-selection, okay? I went to law school with a lot of Capricorns, okay? Not to get too woo-woo on you, I know some of you get really upset when I talk about astrology, but listen, it was a weird coincidence that so many of us had so many close together birthdays. Maybe it's the sign, maybe it's being born in the dead of winter makes us a bunch of creeps, who knows? Well-adjusted Capricorns are highly motivated people who bring the people around them up with them, who are fiercely loyal and who are decisive leaders. Poorly adjusted Capricorns are money and power hungry, cold, and calculating. We like nice things and we want them real bad, okay? So the fact that many Capricorns are attracted to practicing law and many lawyers give the profession a bad rap for being cold and committing power and money crimes, I don't know, is it a coincidence? But as a side note, however, 𝗪𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏, Tom Girardi, and another favorite ne'er-do-well lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, are all Geminis. Go figure. Okay, so maybe it's not a zodiac-based issue, but I think it is true that people who choose to become lawyers are a self-selecting bunch, okay? Because it's not just money we're after. Becoming a lawyer is not the quickest or easiest way to make money, okay? There's lots of better ways. Becoming a lawyer comes with both money, yes, but also prestige, the identity, lawyer, okay? The access to knowledge and perceived power. Many people who go into the law maybe like that aspect of power and prestige, but they aren't dangerous for it. But you can see how the automatic power and prestige you get just from having that degree could attract a seedy bunch of rascals, okay? Plus, though many different types of people can succeed, at law school, the stereotypical personality traits are anxious perfectionists who are good at pretending not to sweat under pressure and who hate being wrong. This is a self-burn. I am all of those things, okay? But the nature of being willing and signing up to undergo 3 grueling years of extra schooling in order to get into an even more grueling profession just for the prestige it gives you means you're gonna have some psychopaths on your hands. Add nepotism into the mix and you've got a recipe for disaster in the case of the 𝗪𝗧𝗛. And nepotism in the legal profession is a very real thing. Just anecdotally, the people that I went to law school with who brought up that their dads were lawyers or whatever were always the most insufferable. Or as another example you have, Brett Kavanaugh, born to 2 lawyers. Went to Yale, where his grandfather also went. Sauntered into the Supreme Court despite only vague qualifications and credible sexual assault allegations. I could spend hours giving you examples of lawyers getting ahead because of their last names. Okay, so one theory could be that lawyers are prone to be bad because the nature of the job they're after is one that creates a lot of power, money, and prestige, and anyone seeking that out and willing to work themselves to the bone for that may be a bad guy. Though of course I've met many lawyers, and many of them are perfectly lovely humans who I respect and consider friends to this day, just for the record. Okay? But then there's the issue of power. They say that absolute power corrupts absolutely. And when you operate in a system where legal education for non-lawyers is pretty much non-existent, and as a general rule, if you are dealing with the law, you need to hire a lawyer or risk a potentially horrible fate, well, that's a lot of power. Maybe not absolute power, but certainly quite a bit of power. I found this interesting article from The Atlantic from 2013 titled How Power Corrupts the Mind, and it had some interesting revelations. According to this article, power isn't necessarily corrupting, instead it's freeing. It allows people's true selves to emerge because you don't feel the pressure to conform to social groups because you don't need to, you're above it. And the corruption depends on who gets the power. In experiments, it was shown that people who say they're more pro-social, when given more power, will be more pro-social. Those who say they have more self-centered values tend to be more selfish, and the more power that they have, the more selfish they get. That, of course, requires someone to self-identify as self-centered, and Lord knows that those actively seeking power would likely never admit that, so yes, your true self comes out, but the article pointed out other interesting takeaways from the research. It said that power reduces awareness of constraints and causes people to act more quickly. Also, powerful people are less likely to remember constraints and more likely to downplay risks. The article said that people with power not only take what they want because they can do so unpunished, but also because they intuitively feel that they are entitled to do so. Conversely, people who lack power not only fail to get what they need because they are disallowed to take it, but also because they intuitively feel they are not entitled to it. There's also evidence that powerful people are more likely to have affairs and to be dishonest. Basically, powerful people assume they can get away with shit, and they're usually right. Chelsea on the Financial Diet channel here on YouTube, she often talks about her run-ins with ultra-wealthy people, and she's pointed out that studies have shown wealthy people are less empathetic than others, and that's largely because with their wealth, they don't need to be empathetic, because they don't need others, they don't need community, they don't need to ask their neighbor for sugar or to wash their house when they're away, or to help them with mowing the lawn. They can pay someone to do all that. They don't need the community that humans have evolved to need, so they lose their empathy. Money is power, baby, so I imagine the same is true for powerful people. And when you have the lawyers, you often have wealth combined with the power of understanding how to work the system. That's a potent combination that I'm sure makes people who are already prone to self-centered motives feel like they can do anything and get away with it all. So I think it's really that the self-selecting personality type of someone who wants to put in the effort to gain the knowledge to work the system, combined with the power and prestige society gives you for getting a law degree and the money on top of all of that, means there is likely a larger percentage of corruptible people choosing to go into the legal profession. But as we've learned, this type of power doesn't necessarily make people bad. It just allows them to unleash who they really are, because they don't need to fit into societal norms. There are many people who go to law school because they want to learn how to work the system for good. I went to law school because I wanted to help people. I certainly didn't envision it manifesting itself in a YouTube channel, but happy to be here. I met so many people in law school who were there for similar reasons and who now are doing great work helping people directly or working on policy change. But then there are those who go to law school for nefarious reasons or self-serving reasons. And I'm certain very people go to law school thinking, ah yes, this will make it easier for me to be a bad guy and a criminal. But I am also certain that many people go to law school for the prestige, the title, the money, and the power. And that shit can go south real fast when it gets into the wrong hands. Thanks again to my partner on today's video, ShipStation. Reminder to go to shipstation.com/Leeja and sign up for a free 60-day trial of ShipStation today. If you've ever thought of making your own YouTube channel, might I suggest checking out my second channel, Delusion Media, or go to delusionmedia.co to sign up for my newsletter and receive regular tips and tricks for how to create content on YouTube. Thanks to my Patreon supporters, including my newest supporter, Brian M. Thanks as always to my royal patrons, Old Man Pence, Fork McSpoon, Ellen L, Lita, May Danger, Rachel, 𝗍𝗓𝗏𝑡𝑣, Jennifer and Catherine, and an extra special thank you to my multi-platinum patron, Brett P. on Tech. Your support is greatly appreciated and it makes this channel what it is, so thank you. If you liked this video, you might also like my recent video all about why I think it should be illegal to own a bunch of rental properties. Thanks so much for watching, have a good day, bye-bye!